Dr. Chris Augustin, director of the Dickinson Research Extension Center. We evaluated 16 different fertilizer treatments that include a couple different liquids in furrow. We hand broadcast 1152O, urea. We had some foliar feedings at different growth stages, as well as some different mixes of foliar feedings. We had inoculation as a treatment, and at the end of the day, we didn't see a single response. This was the course over 3 years. Each year we had 2 sites. 2 of them were in the Minot area. One was a little bit closer to Garrison, and then we had 3 sites more so in the Crosby area. And out of everything was said and done, we didn't see a response. These were low testing fertility soil, so the phosphorus tests were around 4 or 6, I believe, for about every site. Soybeans were a previous crop within the past 4 years. In most instances, soybeans were 2 years or so prior to the year I did that research. Usually wheat was the preceding crop. There was 2 times where soybeans was the previous crop. But with all that, we didn't see a single response. And so working with other researchers throughout the state, we kind of compiled all of our findings together for the past 15 years or so, and we still don't recommend any nitrogen on soybeans because they have that rhizobia that fixes its own nitrogen, but we did adjust the phosphorus recommendations. And so if your soil test is 8 parts per million or greater, and that's on an Olsen phosphorus test, and we recommend Olsen in North Dakota not just because of our higher pHs, but Olsen's been found to be very good at predicting if you're going to have a deficiency or not across a whole gamut of pHs, but we have a lot of calcium in our soils that can tie up phosphorus, and so the Olsen, I think, does a better job of accounting for that versus like a Bray phosphorus test. But soil test comes back 8 parts per million or greater, we don't recommend any phosphorus. If you have a soil test from like 4 to 8 parts per million, probably 26 pounds of P2O5, so you'd be looking at right around 50 pounds of 1152O per acre. If your soil test is less than 4 parts per million, we'd recommend about 50 pounds of P2O5. So now you're around 100 pounds of 1152O per acre. We still recommend broadcasting the phosphorus versus incorporating, but if you're in no-till country, you got to get that stuff in the soil, so probably banding is your best option because you want to get that in the soil and not have it sit on the surface. So we did do a little bit of tweaking with the potassium recommendations, and that's more site-specific throughout the state, and that's based on the clay mineralogy. So if you're in areas like the Red River Valley, Morton County, Divide County is another area that has a lot of what we call schmectitic clays. And that's the stuff that shrinks and swells when it's dry or when it's wet. That can temporarily retain potassium much more than other areas of the state. And so those areas, instead of, I believe the original threshold was like 120 parts per million of potassium, then you don't need any. We made that threshold higher because you can have some temporary retention of the potassium, and it's going to be more so exacerbated during droughty conditions, just because as that soil shrinks up, it's going to more so retain that potassium, and the plant can't take it up as easily. But again, soil test. That's probably the most important thing you can do when it comes to managing your fertilizer. Know what's out there on your ground, be consistent with your soil testing, and by that I mean timing of the year, because it's a different snapshot in the spring versus the fall. So if you like to fall soil test, keep doing it in the fall, because over time it gives you a better feeling of what that ground is doing.